The rain poured relentlessly as the man in the tattered coat shuffled into the dimly lit diner. His face was shadowed by the brim of his soaked hat, but his piercing eyes gleamed with an intensity that made the waitress hesitate before approaching. The group of teenagers in the corner booth snickered, pointing at his disheveled appearance. "Look at this guy," one of them muttered, loud enough for him to hear. "Probably hasn't eaten in days." The man didn't flinch. He simply ordered a black coffee and sat in silence, his gaze fixed on the storm outside. What they didn't know was that this man, once homeless and forgotten, held secrets that could unravel their world. Weeks earlier, the small town had been rocked by a scandal that made national headlines. A high school teacher, beloved and respected, had been found dead in her home. The police ruled it a suicide, but whispers of an affair with a student began to surface. The student, a quiet boy from a troubled home, had disappeared the night of her death. The town was divided. Some believed the teacher had taken her own life out of guilt, while others were convinced the boy had killed her in a fit of rage. But no one could explain the cryptic note found on her desk. "The truth lies where the shadows meet." The man in the diner knew more than he let on. He had been watching the town for months, blending into the background, unnoticed and underestimated. The teenagers who mocked him had no idea that he was once a brilliant financier who had lost everything in a scandal that forced him into hiding. But he hadn't just been hiding, he had been planning. The teacher's death was no suicide, and the boy's disappearance was no coincidence. Both were pieces of a puzzle that led to a hidden fortune buried deep beneath the town's oldest building. As the man sipped his coffee, he overheard the teenagers talking about the upcoming school dance. One of them, a girl with a sharp tongue and a sharper mind, mentioned the old library that was set to be demolished. "It's creepy," she said. "I heard the teacher used to meet her student there after hours." The man's eyes narrowed. The library was the key. It was where the shadows met the place where the teacher had hidden evidence of the affair, along with a map to the fortune. But someone else knew about it too, someone who had killed the teacher to keep her silent. That night, the man made his way to the library, his movements deliberate and calculated. The storm had worsened, and the wind howled through the empty streets. Inside the library, he found the boy trembling and clutching a blood-stained envelope. "I didn't mean to," the boy stammered. "She was going to ruin everything." The man's expression softened, but only for a moment. He took the envelope and opened it, revealing a stack of documents and a map. But before he could react, the lights flickered, and a figure emerged from the shadows, a figure he recognized all too well. It was the teacher's husband, a man who had been presumed dead for years. "You thought you could outsmart me?" he sneered. "I've been waiting for this moment." The man in the tattered coat smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "You're too late," he said. "The fortune is already mine." But as the husband lunged forward, the boy stepped between them, revealing a gun. "I'm not letting either of you take it," he said, his voice shaking but determined. The tension in the room was palpable, each person holding their breath as the storm raged outside. In the end, the man in the tattered coat walked away, his coat now dry and his pockets heavy with gold coins. The boy was gone, vanished into the night, and the husband lay motionless on the library floor. But as the man disappeared into the shadows, he left behind a single clue, a note that read, "The game is far from over." The town would never be the same, and the secrets buried within its walls would continue to haunt those who dared to uncover them. The story was far from finished, and the man in the tattered coat had only just begun to play his hand.